Good morning, I'm Ed Drozd of E&D Associates. I'm here today with Tom Stocker. Tom is the Managing Director of Owner's Edge, a business advisory firm specializing in helping business owners to fix and grow their companies, as well as to prepare them for transition. Also, I should say, he facilitates an owner and CEO peer group, the Edge CEO Advisory. Tom, welcome. Good morning.
Good morning, Ed.
How are you today?
Thanks for having me. Doing great.
It's a pleasure to have you. So Tom, let's get this ball rolling here. I'd like to start right in with a question for you. What sets a high-performance company apart from its peers?
That's actually fairly easy, I think. One of the main ingredients that a high-performing company has is accountability throughout the whole organization. Accountability is part of the culture for a high-performing company. You see it everywhere they go. People are really juiced about being there. They take charge. They measure themselves against some pretty high-performing type of metrics they may use. And it's very different if you were to go into everyone else. As you look at businesses that don't have accountability, you see people doing things, but they don't necessarily do things efficiently. They don't measure themselves. They don't necessarily make really informed decisions with data and things. They just kind of do things. So accountability is a huge ingredient for companies if they want to become high performers.
The accountability that you refer to whom are they accountable?
Great question. And the answer is to everybody. So to themselves, first of all, they want to be able to, no one likes to lose. So they are usually driven people. They're accountable to their peers. If someone is not pulling their own weight or doing things that need to get done in order to reach the goal as a group, they bring it down. Certainly they're accountable to the company to help the company grow. And last but definitely not least, they're accountable to their customers, both internal and external.
One part that I'd like to learn a little bit more about is the accountability of the owners and the executives to the team, and also how they create or how they instill a culture of accountability. Or do they, in fact? Or is it more organic than that?
No, it definitely starts with the owner. There are a lot of businesses where most businesses, the owner is absolutely driven. The problem is a lot of the owners, and I'm going to talk about the non-performing for a second, or underperforming businesses, the owner is heads down. They just expect everyone around them to be performers. The difference that sets apart the performing businesses, not only do the owners expect everyone to perform, but in high-performing businesses, they're verifying. So they hire the right people. Is probably the biggest tangible thing that you could put in there. That high-performing businesses, the owners don't settle for B and C players, people that are just there and look for direction. They hire people that are peers. In the other types of businesses, that's not the case. In a lot of cases, the owner's the smartest guy in the room. They have that, they need to be. And another thing that they may be doing is they look at cost first, talent second. So that really stunts the business growth. So if the owner doesn't have the type of profile to be able to drive accountability into their business and hire the right people, they're behind the eight ball to start with.
Did you say that the owner, or were you giving an example where an owner does not embrace the accountability? I missed something that you said there. It sounded like you're saying that the owner felt that they were responsible for it all. Did you allude to that? Did I?
No. The owners in high-performing businesses.
In high-performing businesses, okay, right. Yep.
In high-performance businesses, they instill accountability into their team. Mm-hmm. So they look at their team as peers. So they don't have to be the smartest guy in the room type of thing.
They do not have to be.
Do not have to be.
Okay.
In the an underperforming business, or everyone else, I should say, a lot of times the owner has to feel like they're the smartest guy in the room, or they just don't hire the right people. They look at, I can't afford that, or that's too expensive. And really what they're not looking at is how expensive it is to do what they just did. So an example may be an owner that feels that I can't pay market rates for the type of talent I need. So I'm going to buy somebody without the experience, and I'm going to grow them. Well, when you hire someone, for instance, you're hiring at the market rate, whatever rate that is, and then those people become much slower growth in their wages. So if you're hiring someone that doesn't have the experience that you need to drive the things that you need, what you've done is you're pretty much training that person for someone else. Because once they do have that experience and do have the training that you put on, they're moving on, because they know that they're now worth $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 more than what that owner may be willing to pay. And really what happens with the accountability part on that, it's only a small example, but owners in the underperforming businesses don't know what accountability really is, and don't know how to handle accountability, how to make it work inside their business. So as they grow, the culture becomes one of non-perform or doesn't have accountability into the culture.
Right. Okay.
And no one has to be responsible for anything other than coming in, getting their job done, but driving the business growth, strategies, and so on aren't part of their psyche. And vision strategy is a major portion of that the owners need to be able to do. So the owner has to set a vision for the business that everyone can get in, their destination. So everybody can get into their car and want to go to where it is. The strategies are how are you going to get there, and all of their people can help them. If you don't have accountability in your business, that doesn't exist. And it's something, again, it will stunt that business's growth.
Let's go back for a moment, if we can. Just, if you would, define for me a high-performing company. I understand that accountability is a cornerstone of such a company, but how do you define a high-performance company?
A lot of people do them different ways. The way I define it is it's a company that is working well. New England Patriots, for instance, are a high-performing business.
Okay.
New York Jets, unfortunately for Jets fans, is not. They appear to have the same types of things, but they're run very differently. And the same thing goes for business. You have businesses that are high-growth businesses, and the growth is under control. They're making money on it. And you also have businesses that look like they're high growth. Their revenues may be growing, but they're losing money, or they're not making as much. So when you look at what's a high performance business, one is, what's the score telling you? And the score is what your financial statement's telling you. It's primarily your profit and loss statement, your P&L. Are you making money? Are your margins where they need to be? Are you doing things about them? Are people talking to each other? Is it a culture of support, or is it a culture of blame? And if you have those types of things, does everybody know where they're going? Does everybody measure themselves against something? Are metrics shared? Are metrics discussed? Is there follow-up on things? These are all things that high-performance companies just do because it's their nature. Underperformers, or everyone else, in a lot of cases, you may talk about something or have an assignment type of thing, and that's the last you hear about it. Either happens or it doesn't. And the next discussion is when it doesn't happen. And that becomes the culture of blame. Why didn't you do this, or why didn't you do that? Well, I didn't have any timeline to get it done. High performance companies put milestones in everywhere they go. They measure against what their performance is versus what they expected. They plan things before they do it. It's not a ready, shoot, aim type of an atmosphere, which you see in a lot of the underperformers. They think about it, they make a plan before they execute, and then they execute well. I call that flawless execution. So it's a culture of, we expect to win, and you could feel it.
So what I'm hearing you say is that there's also an accountability to the vision. The vision has been provided by the owner, the leadership, and there's an accountability to that. It's clear enough for the entire group to understand, to embrace, and then to be accountable, as well as to each other, their teammates, their customers, and so on.
Yeah, and I teach courses on that type of thing, but and you're absolutely right. The vision is the foundation of everything for the business. Anything and everything that everyone inside the business does is to reach that objective. Okay. I call the vision finding your Omaha. The owner, it's the owners and the owners alone. It's their vision for what they want their company to be. If they don't have one, people will go off and do whatever they need to do to be successful.
Right.
That may not have anything to do with where the owner wants to take the business. So if the owner doesn't have a vision that people can stand behind and it's not clear, people will make up their own. Another mistake that I see some owners try to do is we're going to make this vision together. So with their people. So I want you all to tell me what it is that where you're going to take my company.
It sounds touchy-feely to me. It sounds kind of good, in a way.
Yeah, in a way. Well, if the owner has in his mind, already knows he wants to go to Omaha, and does the touchy-feely, and the group says, hey, you know what, we're going to go to Jacksonville. You have an owner that's probably not going to be real happy. There's a big problem there, though. He can't get out of the car once it starts rolling. Everyone else can. So if they don't decide that they do not want to go to Omaha, where the owner wants to go, they do have that option to get out of the car and get into another car and go to Jacksonville. The owner can't. They own it. They're going to be living it. So it's very important for everyone to be in alignment to go to where that owner wants. Yes, they can be influenced. There's no doubt that, and a lot of times it's a good idea that, hey, if we take through the strategy process, it'd be nice if we went through Philadelphia and pick up another road over and go that way to get to Omaha.
Okay.
We can make a nicer car versus just going all the way down the coast and around where they never get to where they want to go.
Right.
And another thing that owners ask, well, once I reach Omaha, then what? Well, in my mind, it's you've put out there where you want to go. It's far enough out in the future, 2-3 years out, maybe 5-10 years of where it is that you want to go. You don't want to ever reach it. So you want to get what's next. So it's sort of like the greyhound races. You don't want the greyhound to catch the rabbit. So you want to keep people thinking about what's in the future, what's in the future, what's in the future. Then they can help you build the strategies around getting there. And strategies are important. And once you've got your strategies to reach there, then you could start working on what's going to happen in the next 12 months. What's the actual tactics that you're going to be doing to get there? So your strategies have to be attainable and measurable. Your tactics absolutely have to be very detailed, attainable, and measurable. So it's important to have all of those things working together. From there, you can then start really putting in accountability into your business. But it's a culture change if you don't have it already.
So let me ask you a question. You go into a business and you are trying to assess the status, if you will, of this accountability. Let's go. We're going on the premise that the vision is the foundation, and the accountability is the catalyst that's going to make this all bring this to fruition. How would you go about sensing the status of the accountability within an organization?
Great question.
What do you look for? What is it that speaks to you when you go into an organization?
Yeah. My background is private equity, where I worked for a business where I was the operations person that worked with all of our portfolio companies. So I worked with approximately anywhere between 30 and 50 companies at any given time. Sizes ranged from 10 million to about 700 million. And I got very good to be able to walk into a company, especially when we first bought them, and size up what it is that we had. Discussion with the owner, first of all. Tell me about your business. Tell me about where you're going. Tell me about what it is that you're going to be accomplishing short-term, long-term.
Okay.
It's a very important conversation. And then asking the question, well, how do you measure that? How do you use your financial statements? What are your margins? What's your gross margin? What's your profitability? What's your what's your pricing on your materials? What's the labor? How's your turnover in your team? So these are all kinds of questions that I would ask, and I could then go and talk to the management team and understand where they're all coming from as well. And finally, it's the observation by walking around to see what type of business is the company clean? Are things askew? Do people look like they're harried? Do people look like they're happy? What kind of cars are out in the parking lot? How many cars are out in the parking lot? These are all different indicators that can help you assess how is that company doing.
Okay.
So is our right or wrong answer on any of that stuff? I don't think so. But it sure does give you an indicator. How do you knock on that?
Right.
But if the answers come back on when discussing around margins and performance and what's your plan to go forward, are in my mind very heavily weighted toward the accountability factor. If the financial statements are simply a tax return, because that's the way their CPA set it up,
Okay.
and the owner didn't ask questions about it and doesn't use it as an operating measurement device,
Right.
that's major red flags. I could just by that one alone, I could tell you whether they're a performer or not performer. And if they do it that way, where it's basically management by checkbook, they're not a performing company. They may grow, but they're not in control, and they don't know what they may have. They may not know what their margins are, so they can't make pricing decisions. They can't make new market decisions with market intelligence. They're doing it by the seat of their pants. And if they're running their business out of their checkbook, they clearly are not looking beyond next month.
Okay. So it sounds to me like this is something that has to be managed very on an ongoing basis, but there are probably, the vision is being tweaked, as it were, periodically. What's the role of annual planning and reviewing the past and forging the path for the future?
The annual plan is the next 12 months of your strategy. It's the first 12 months. It's where you take from the strategy, thinking about it, even though the strategy has to be attainable and measurable, you're now taking it to the next level, which is the tactics. What are the specific things that we have to do in order to reach what our goals are for the next 12 months? And then you build a budget to help support that. So a lot of people think of the budget as their plan. And my answer to that is no. You have a plan of actions of what you want to do, and then you build a budget around that. For instance, if you just take your last year's performance and say, oh, I'm going to up it by 10%, done, that's your budget, that's your plan. What happens if your business is not recurable? So you were a project type basis. Are you going to have the same exact things happen to you this year or this coming year that happened last year? The answer is probably no. So if you start, and also if you start looking at, we want to get into some new markets that we don't have the current talent in, that you have to bring people in. If you built your budget around, you didn't have that extra people type of things baked into it, you can't reach your budget. So now you'd be making decisions based on what your budget told you versus what you were trying to do. And you may not, well, we can't hire that person because our budget says we don't have the money to do that.
Right.
Well, you didn't build it properly because now you're stunting your growth.
Okay.
So the plan has a significant role in accountability. I'll give you an example. Some people don't understand that. So I'll use the New England Patriots. Think of their game plan as their operating plan for the next 12 months. So they go into the game on Sunday morning knowing what their first 20 plays are offensively and defensively are, based on the intelligence that they gained over watching game films and so on.
Right.
Tom Brady doesn't saunter in on Sunday morning, and Belichick kind of meets him at the door with a cup of coffee in his hand and say, "What are you feeling like today? You look like you want to play wide receiver." And Vince Wilfork walks in. Hey, Vince, you feel like being a kicker today? No. Everybody knows their role. Everybody's professional in what they do,
right.
And everybody knows what it is that they need to do in order to win. And in business, it's the same way. That annual plan is the game plan, and the budget is the scorecard.
a little bit more about financial statements. You said that financial statements, or those companies, I should say, that use financial statements as a means of monitoring their business health, if you will, are likely to be underperformers, or that they lack accountability.
Yep.
A little bit more about
Probably
that,
both.
please.
Yeah. A lot of times when I go see, especially smaller companies, larger companies, I'm always surprised, and it does happen when companies are above $10 million and their financial statement, the P&L specifically, is set up alphabetically.
Okay.
Which is, to me, is a red flag right away, where it's either set up out of the box or the CPA set it up for ease of doing the tax return, where operating type expenses aren't in the cost of goods, they're down in the admin. A big example of that would be salaries, payroll. I see it, especially smaller businesses that are on the cash basis, which, whenever the check clears or you make a payment, that's when it gets recorded as part of your business. It's not operational, which means you can't really make decisions with that if in fact you've got terms. So
Okay.
if in fact you sold something this month and you're not recording it in as a sale until 2 months later when you get the invoice in, if you didn't have any sales at all that month, but you had spent all the money, to build the products
Right.
and pay the people and so on, you're going to show a big loss that month.
Right.
2 months later, if you didn't sell anything, you'll see a great sale with no costs. You can't put that together. You can't make business decisions on it. So even if you're on the cash basis, you have to look at yourself from more of a accrual basis, which is when the actual transactions occur versus when it clears your bank.
Okay.
So it's real important for businesses to operate their business in that fashion.
Okay.
So when they set their financial statements up, and the CPA either leaves it set up as it came out of the box, which is generally alphabetical, or sets it up so that all of these different types of things, your bookkeeper and salespeople are treated the same way as your operational people or the service people. So they're all in one lump. You're not separating your gross margin. You can't figure out what your gross margin is if you don't have all the pieces in the right spot. So you can't make those good business decisions on pricing and where are you making your money and where you're not.
Okay. So they're being driven by perhaps misinformation or not using it the proper way.
Yes, and I think in a lot of cases the owner has not. They don't. First of all, they don't have to be financial wizards to do this.
Right.
Accountants and those types of things.
Right.
But they never learned. I'll call it the management of using or understanding what does a financial statement really tell you.
Right.
Because it tells them a lot. It's a critical tool for a business to be able to thrive and for people to understand. And what happens in a lot of cases, because we're the owners of our businesses, so we're supposed to know everything. It's embarrassing for me to tell you, I don't know how to read that thing. I don't know what that's telling me. And at the end of the year, when in December, when I have my planning meeting with my CPA and said, well, you're going to make a lot of money. If you want to reduce taxes, you need to go out and spend a bunch of money. So I go out and I spend a whole bunch of money like they told me to do. And they always say, if it makes sense for your business. Right? Well, I have no idea what makes sense for my business because I don't know how to read that thing.
Right.
So I'm going to say, all right, I'm going to go do that. Well, to reduce your taxes, only 25% of that profit will reduce your taxes. So you've got to spend, if you want to save $25,000 in taxes, you got to spend $100,000.
Right.
So come January, your CPA tells you that, well, you've still made some money, so you still owe taxes. And you look at your checkbook and it's zero. Well, how could that be? I don't have any money in my checkbook. Well, they're two different things.
Checkbooks and financial statements are not one and the same.
They are absolutely not.
And knowing what our financial statements mean is very important. And if we're not going there, we're not being accountable to that vision and that purpose of our company that, as you say, is a hallmark of the high producer, the strong producer. I have one more question for you. The question that everybody wants the answer for. Does size matter?
Of course.
I refer, of course, to the size of an organization and the importance of accountability. Is it a large corporation entity, or does it apply across the board? For the mom and pop shop as well as for the the big corporation. How about it? Does size matter?
It depends.
Okay.
The short answer is yes. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I'm sorry. The short answer is no. It doesn't matter what size business. Every business can and should have accountability.
Okay.
What does influence that is, do you want to grow your business? Do you care if your company's a high-performing company,
Okay.
or is it just a job for you? If it's just a job and a way for you to pay your bills, having no accountability could be fine.
Or a hobby, as I've heard said a lot.
Or a hobby.
On Shark Tank.
Right. Right. If those types of things, maybe it doesn't matter
Right.
so much. But if you have aspirations to grow your business, to make your business valuable, so that when you're all done and you go to transfer it, there's real value based in your business.
Mm-hmm.
Accountability is one of the biggest factors that will influence how much you can possibly get out of your business.
That makes perfect sense to me. I have to say that accountability is certainly a life lesson and instruction for everyday life, and certainly in business I can appreciate and value very much how important it is. I want to say, Tom, that I really appreciate the time with you today, and our time is just about up. So I would like to wrap up and ask you if you have any closing comments that you'd like to leave with your guest today.
Well, thank you. I do. I think that the accountability part is extremely important to everyone to think about. We talked a bit about financial statements. That is your ultimate scoreboard. Getting people to understand what they really mean. If you're not sure how to read them or what they're supposed to be telling you, because they tell you a lot, I do encourage you to get the attention of your CPA. CPAs aren't always the best place to go to learn what to do operationally. Many of them are focused on taxes, which sometimes go against what it is that you're trying to accomplish. So understand them, learn them, make sure you have a vision. Vision is extremely important, that you share it, and have your folks that work with you help you get there. And by all means, make sure that you have people that can help you get there.
Well, thank you very much. Again, my guest today is Tom Stalker, Managing Director of Owner's Edge. I'm Ed Drozda for Business Share, and I want to thank you for joining us today. Tom, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ed.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Appreciate it.